your host, Shannon, and today we are talking about embracing protective styles. With me today, I have my good friend, Amber Underwood, who is also a therapist, entrepreneur, and a woman on a mission to empower one soul at a time to embrace their whole self so they can fulfill their life's purpose. She is also the author of a book, Hupomone, which I have read and enjoyed, and someone who I believe embraces their natural hair through protective styles as they're walking on this journey of being all of these things, therapist, entrepreneur, and a woman on the mission. So, Amber, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been natural.
Hey. Well, thank you, Shannon, for having me. Super excited. As Shannon said, I'm Amber Underwood, an entrepreneur, author, school-based mental health therapist, woman on a mission, all the things, just really passionate about people living a holistic life in fullness so that they can become the person that they were designed to be. I have personally been natural. Ironically, this episode is about protective styles and I don't have them in right now. I'm getting it in this week, but yeah, I love protective styles because I personally just like struggle with which Shannon was my hair coach for a while. And just the whole process of me being super busy, like it can be time consuming. So now I'm in this process of embracing the protective style still, but learning my hair. And I've actually been natural since 2013. So yeah.
Nice. And I think your hair is not in a protective style, right? But there are those spaces. This is part of like the journey of our hair and protective styling, right? Like there are those spaces where we need to have our hair breathing outside of the styles, right? Like as we're going in between braids or twists or whatever we're doing, and like letting our hair be in a puff, letting our hair be in its natural state. And that's kind of like the prep for getting those protective styles put back in, or the transitory state, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think it's perfect. We come as we are. We come as we are.
Okay.
So, how did your natural hair journey begin?
Yeah, so it was 2013. I was a sophomore in college, University of Alabama, War Tide, War Eagle. Went to UA, but just not,
All right. Got to clean that up.
But yeah, it was 2013, and the year before that I had like just a mental health crisis, and I had started this journey of just like really learning who I was outside of what people were telling me that I was or what I was supposed to be. And so it started with my hair. And at the time I did have a perm. And I was like, I actually had met Shannon at that point and I'd seen her hair. There was another girl that we were friends with. I had seen her hair. So it was like, let me just see who I am apart from the chemicals, apart from the perm. No shade to anybody that is still on that journey. But for me personally, it was just about me accepting all of me. And that started with my hair because my hair, growing up in a predominantly white school, they tell us to straighten our hair. They tell us to put the perms in, all the things. And so when I started that journey, it was just important for me to see who I was apart from that in its natural full state.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful that your hair was a step to healing, right? Like your hair was a step to reclaiming yourself, like after a hard time. And I think about all the different spaces because like even earlier you said, you're constantly like trying to find the balance in time and like managing your hair in time, and protective styles has been a way to like do that and still stay true to keeping it healthy. But like moms who get their hair braided before they're about to have a baby, like just all these different ways where it's like, this is a part of my healing journey, or it's a part of making sure that I can still be true to myself and protect myself and protect my hair and show up in my life every day. And it gives us agency to do that.
Yeah, that's good. And now that you say that, it's actually giving me a different perspective. I knew that I was going on a journey of healing, but I never felt like, it's so crazy. I just never felt like my hair is tied to that. And so now that you say that, but it was all about me just accepting all of me. Like, cause I didn't know who I was. Like it took me losing myself to find myself, and in being on that journey still, cause all of life is the undoing and you're constantly becoming someone different. Yeah, it started with my hair. That's so good, Shan. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're healing right now. But I think it's so funny because it resonates deeply with me, I'm thinking about the moments where it might have made sense for me to wear a protective style. But to your point, like being a Black person showing up in white spaces, I remember in high school, I went on a trip to Europe for 20 days and I wanted my hair straight. I got my hair pressed. I
Mhm.
didn't know how to care for it, and I went to Europe for 20 days. It would have benefited me to understand myself and to be confident in myself and to wear protective styles. I came back with severe heat damage and I had to get it cut. So when you met me, I was healing. I was recovering our freshman
Wow.
year and repairing my hair. So it's funny because I'm like, you took this step as you're healing. You met me at a point when I was healing, and it comes with our hair. Like it starts with our hair.
Mm. Wow. I didn't know that either. So that's good information.
Everybody is on a certain step in their journey, and it's kind of like where you meet people, and we all have something to give. We all have something to offer, and we're all just trying to figure it out, right? So it's like you can look at people and see hear goals, but everything has a story behind it.
Mhm.
We're here, we're telling stories.
Yeah.
So what does protective styling mean to you as you've been on this journey, as you've been healing, as you've been navigating all of these things? What does it mean to you?
I think it means just what it says, like protecting my hair from, I know for me, like I love to keep my hands in my hair and it tampers with my curls. And I'm already like foresee that kinky nappy hair. And so having a protective style keeps my hands out of my head, but also I'm so busy, like my hair can be time consuming because you have to nurture your hair, you have to love your hair. And if I know that I don't have the time to do it in the way that I know I can, why not put something in my hair that can protect it? And then I can just nurture my scalp with the oil, with the water, all the things. But yeah, protective styling to me is to save time. And then also just to like see what I look like apart from like my actual natural state. And I feel like I've embraced it to the fullest. I love me some good knotless braids. With a bun, oh my goodness, that is me all day.
No, that's so funny. And I think it's fair, right? Because you can experiment with your hair, but it opens up a new layer of experimentation. Like when you have braids, then you get them like maybe like a short braid bob. I know you haven't done that, but I see people do those. And I'm like, that's cute. But like
Mhm.
getting them longer for length and you can toy around with different styling. It definitely opens up a different doorway that you can have without adding a layer of like damage. I think there's, depending on people have their experience with braids, sometimes damage can come. But the aim, if it's done well, is to minimize the damage, protect your hair, keep it intact, and let you have a new experience.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
So, as you've been looking at protective styles too, because you've been showing up in a lot of different spaces, you have your professional space, you are, working in the schools, like showing up as an entrepreneur. What have been some of your biggest influences in deciding to embrace, really sitting in those protective styles? I feel like there's always that conversation of like, do braids belong in a wedding? Do braids belong in certain spaces, right? Like, are they only vacation hair? Are they only for X, Y, and Z type of environment? So, what have been some of your biggest influences in deciding to embrace protective styles?
I think it goes back to what you said about the different spaces. I'll speak from the school perspective right now.
Yeah.
So I'll have my braids and then I'll come in with like my natural hair. So my afro. The last
Mhm.
2 weeks, I've actually been intentional about just wearing the afro and not the puff. Ironically, I'm wearing it today. But I strayed
Yeah.
from that because the tension was kind of pulling on my edges and stuff. And so really just embracing, because when my hair is in its natural, like afro state, my curls are just easy to, like, because of the humidity, they just go away super quick. Like you can tell
Yeah.
right now, like, they just go away super quick. And so I was a little self-conscious because I didn't really like it, but just learning to embrace me again. So learning me, loving me, all the things at every level.
Yeah.
I decided let's just do this. So went to the schools, the teachers and the students are like, yo, we want that. We want this, Amber, which is so interesting because I work at a predominantly white school. There's probably like 10 Black kids that go there. And so
Yeah.
for them to see me, I think it also gives them a different perspective about the other Black students that go there and like what their hair looks like. So I'm not really just coming and representing me. I'm representing that other 1% that, or really that 0.5% that y'all overlook. And just realizing that lets me know that even down to my hair, like it's bigger than me. It's not just about me. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I mean, I think it sounds really beautiful, right? It sounds like your influence was like recognizing the need for representation, and I think from your background, right, like as a therapist, like as somebody who has that social work lens, like representing the impact that representation can have on others, and so wanting to be that in a community that didn't necessarily have that gave you the courage to show up. It gave you the
Yeah.
courage to show up for yourself. It gave you the courage to show up for those students, like for those people around you who you saw needed that, even if you weren't fully confident in it, but you saw that there was space where it was needed.
Yeah, and it's ironic because now when I have the braids, they're like, "We like the braids, but we want the afro. Like, we want the afro." And I've never been like, people like, "Don't touch my hair," or whatever, because I've been so used to protective styles. I've never
Yeah.
really been the type to say like, "Don't touch my hair." So when I come in with the afro, they're like, "Is it real?" Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, do you want to touch it?" And they feel how thick it is, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what are you using?" So even just being introduced to the differences in hair, but how those same products may actually impact them. But yeah, they like the braids, but they would rather have the afro now.
And I think, but that's beautiful because it gets to the point of like what protective styles are about, right? Like your hair is healthy when
Mhm.
you braids out, and they see that. And yes, braids, twists, whatever we wear, they give us these beautiful looks. They give us the fun vacation here, but they're also serving a purpose, right? Protective style. So you're protecting our ends. You're trying to minimize breakage. You're trying to minimize heat damage, right? Like there's all these other goals. And so you're meeting that, like, and people are seeing that and they're saying, oh, she can enjoy these braids, but her hair is healthy too. Her hair is beautiful too. It's flourishing and it's thriving too. And I think that's important because it shows that you can do both, like that there's balance in both, that you can maintain health. Like it's just a matter of, like you said, routine and care. You mentioned caring for your scalp, and I think that that's something for a long time everybody thought it was just the hair, right? And it's like the scalp is actually where our hair is growing from. So it's just learning these different pieces and protective styling. Honestly, it opens up space to focus on your scalp, to focus on scalp hair, on scalp maintenance, and say like, okay, let's make sure that this is healthy. Let's make sure that this is okay. So that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
So as you're in the space of entrepreneurship, how has your hair influenced how you navigate in those areas? So I know that you have launched your book, you have attended Pinky Cole's wedding, all of these exciting places, all while wearing braids in your processes and your launches in these spaces. So I'm curious how that has impacted how you show up, especially with some people having the stigma that braids don't belong to these formal settings, that braids aren't professional. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll start with the book. So the book cover is actually a sew-in, so some extensions. And then when I did the
Hmm.
photo shoot for the book, the actual book launch, it was the same thing. And I tried to keep that just coinciding with what the cover looked like. So it was on quote unquote brand. But then it was ironically, I actually had that sew-in in when I launched the book. And I remember I needed that thing out of my head that week. Like it was super itchy, like, and I didn't know if it was because I had not had one in a long time or if really my scalp was just used to like the protective style, the braids, all the things. So within a week that sewing was out of my head. That weave was gone. And I went straight back to just letting my scalp breathe. And then I put the braids in. The braids were never supposed to be like the signature look for me. It was again, just protective styles.
Hmm.
And so I kept them in. And then obviously with the book or anything that you launch, opportunities come. And so as the opportunities started coming, it was like, I'm not going to have the time because I'm a one woman show with the small help of like people here and there when they can, but being a one woman show, like, so having to learn to do my makeup, learn to like style myself, all the things, it was like, what can I do that would make me look good but also not be so time consuming? And for me it was the braids. And so again, going back to the schools, being in those spaces, they would rather have the natural hair, but I know that I'm super busy. Like, so for me, it's important to have the braids. And you mentioned Pinky Cole's wedding. So for those that don't know, American Sesh is this new brand that Pinky Cole created. Just super dope brand. That's all I can really say about it. Super dope brand, but I ended up being selected to be in the sesh, and it turned out that I ended up being invited to her actual wedding. Congratulations, Pinky, if you like, you listen to this. But um, yeah, and so it was like, even then, do I want to do weave? Because I'm thinking about the wedding. Like, majority of these women are probably going to have like their weave-in, their press and curls, all the things. And it was like, do I stick to who I am or do I conform? And for me right now, it is the braids. So I said, I'm just going to show up in this space with the braids. And it was the best decision that I ever made, because I don't even want to say I quote unquote stood out. It was just people saw me for me. And with all the things that we had to do, at the wedding, and networking and being introduced to people, I didn't want to have a combing my weave every 5 minutes, or making
Yeah.
sure it wasn't sweating. Like, I just threw my braids up, in my knotless braids to be exact, up in a bun, and I went. And now, like, I can't leave the braids alone. Like I said, I'm getting them tomorrow. No, Monday. I'm getting them Monday. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful, right? Like you stayed authentic to yourself.
Mm,
And that's what mattered. Like that's what allowed people to see you. And in the midst of kind of like knowing everything that was going to be around you, like knowing kind of like, oh, this might not be the typical wedding style. Like this might not be like what people really would expect, but it's true to who you are. It's true to how you show up. It's true to how you maintain yourself and your time. And so that's the choice, right? Like that's the choice. I'm showing up as myself. And I think that's authentic to your mission too, just so you know. Like
mm,
you're helping people be their whole selves. You're showing up as your whole self. Like you have to embody what you're, believing in and what you're speaking as well.
yeah. Literally becoming it. And I feel like that's just kind of what's happened. Like, and I'm getting the braids again on Monday because I have another event to go to. And it's like, do I want to once again conform to, no shade to anybody that, does do the sew-ins and all the things? Because I can foresee myself getting a sew-in again this year, because that is also a protective style.
Right.
But I also know that I have to do, for me, the braids are working because my natural hair has not been trained for silk presses and all the things, and the humidity will eat it up. So
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna do the braids right now. We're riding it out.
That Alabama humidity. And I
Hmm.
think it's important what you just said that, you know, sew-ins, wigs, like those things are also protective styles, right? Like they require maintenance, they require care that looks different than braids, right? Because if your scalp is covered or however you're getting them done, but they're also a protective style as well. Um, as long as you're maintaining your hair in a healthy way underneath them. And it's kind of
Yeah,
like in the same way that earlier I was saying, you met me at a certain point in my journey, you were at a certain point in your journey, and everybody is on their journey. They're at certain paces. Sew-ins for you at one point was the protective style that you were using. And as your journey evolved, as the needs of your time and the care that you wanted and the feelings that you wanted to experience and the desire to experiment grew and changed, you evolved in your journey. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that those are also protective styles as well, and that everybody is on their own kind of process and going where they are, in the same way that earlier we talked about how we met and I was at a certain point in my journey and you were at a point in yours. So just like really giving space to acknowledge, right? Because everybody has to figure out what's best for them and work, and it requires experimentation. And the main goal is health and like making sure that that's being prioritized as well.
yeah, that's so good. I think about, when you talk about just people's journey in their weaves or their wigs, I think about my grandmother. Um,
Mm,
my grandmother used to always wear wigs. And she still does now, but about 2 years ago, she would watch me downstairs in her house embrace my braids, and then take my braids out and nurture my scalp and nurture my natural hair. And she just got so interested in, like, what are you using? And like, how is that helping your hair? Like, do you find that your hair still sheds, or there's less shedding and it's growing? And so just taking her on my journey afforded her the opportunity to go on her own journey. And so even now, like she still wears her wigs and stuff, but she didn't used to oil her scalp while her wigs were in her hair. It was just, let me just throw this on and keep it going. And so like her edges had come out. The middle of her hair had come out because of the tension. And now that she's using some of the oils like the castor oil, the peppermint oil, all of that on her hair, also while learning that her hair type is different from mine. So she has to be mindful of like what works for her and what doesn't. But just her watching me embrace that has caused her to embrace her own. So yeah,
I
journeys. We talk about journeys.
I think that's so beautiful, right? Like as we're all on our journeys with our hair, we give room to others to take another step in their journey as well. And for her, like you said, it's learning her own hair. I think there's something too, just in our families and the generational experience of my grandma. Also, she sees me with my hair now, and she's like, "Oh, what do you do to your hair? Like, how do you do it?" And we have very different hair as well. But like, I think we have a freedom that they didn't have when
Mm,
it comes to our hair. And so like them getting to live a little bit through us and even at the point in their lives like start their journey or try something new or just like my grandma, I put two twist pigtails in her hair and she was so happy with that, right? Like she doesn't wear her hair twisted. And so there's just all these little moments that I think just are really beautiful and special and how like we get to show up and then allow others to show up as well.
yeah, you just said they didn't, basically you said something along the lines of like they didn't have the opportunities that, we have now to nurture and care for our hair. And it just made me think about how growing up, my mom was so hyper focused on making sure our hair looked good when we went to school, that our
Mhm.
hair was oiled and moisturized, and that we just looked good, that with her working in the lunchroom, it was just a hairnet and just slicking her hair down. And so now
Mm.
that her children are older, she has the opportunity to really focus on herself like she wants. And so even now,
Yeah.
my mom has the braids, my mom has the twist, and she's got me putting her hair up in a bun like mine. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely something to that. Definitely.
My mom is natural now too, and her hair is shorter. She gets it like pure coiled. She'll go to the salon, because she's still learning about her products. But it is beautiful, right? Like it's a generational freeing, and I think that that's
Mhm.
so beautiful beyond protective styles and just like our hair in general. And I love that. So
Yeah.
as we get ready to wrap, what thoughts would you share with those who are looking to embrace protective styles more on their hair journey?
Well, we're nearing the summer's in and into the fall. And I personally think the fall is just the perfect time to like
Mhm.
let the past things really fall off and just kind of embrace who you're becoming in this new season. And so I think this is the perfect time to explore that. I love
Yeah.
Pinterest. I go get all of my hairstyles off of Pinterest. So if you don't know where to begin, obviously we have Instagram and TikTok and all the things, but if you don't know where to begin, like just start there, like search engine, box braids, knotless braids, twists, whatever you feel like would suit you best and what you're interested in. And if I could go back when I started my protective style journey, I did not keep my scalp moisturized. I did not have the water and the oil on it. And my hair needs it because it gets dry super fast. So just make sure if you do decide to embrace this journey, like know your hair type and figure out what your scalp wants, what it needs while it's up in that, so that you can benefit from the growth that actually does take place from protective styles.
Mm, that's beautiful. Prioritizing knowledge and health to make sure that you see the results you want in the long run.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, Amber. So, if you could say one affirmation to your hair right now, what would you say?
Oh, I want to give my hair a name. So we're working on that. But when I have that name, I will include that name in the affirmation. So we'll just say blank is evolving, learning, becoming, and growing.
I
Blank
love,
loves herself. Yeah. She loves herself at every stage.
I love that. That's so beautiful. She loves herself at every stage. All right. Well, on that note, Amber, thank you so much for joining us. For those listening, Thank you for listening in with us. Remember that all hair is good hair and your hair is good hair. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, you can subscribe, leave us a review letting us know what resonated with you, and share this episode with someone else who might also enjoy our conversation. You can follow us on all social media at Your Hair Made Simple. And until next time, thank you for being a part of our community.